Hi, this is Miss Haley with the Huntsville-Madison County Public Library, and today I'm going to show you how to make a sock bunny. This craft is suitable for elementary school age children with the help of a parent, or for tweens and teens on their own. For this craft, what you will need is a low temperature hot glue gun, a couple of extra hot glue sticks, a pair of fabric scissors that hopefully have not been chewed on by your dog, some ribbon, this one's optional, one sock, preferably white, that is longer in the neck, you want a nice long neck on your sock, 3 sheets of felt, you want one in pink, one in white, and one in black. You can use scrap felt. My white and black are pieces of scrap felt. My pink is a whole sheet. I'm not sure how much of that we'll need yet today. I'll be doing this on the fly with you guys. You will also need 2 little rubber bands. These are the clear kind that you can get in the hair care section. They are for doing hairstyling, but you can also use any small rubber band that you have like this. A rainbow loom band would also work. You just want to pick one that'll fit your colors. And lastly, you need some fluff. This is poly-fil, and I got my poly-fil from a craft store. You can get it at Walmart. Hopefully you can get it through grocery pickup. I am not sure on that. If you don't have poly-fil, or if you can't find it, you can't find access to it, you can't order it online, you can also use plastic sacks from the grocery store. Those work in a similar way. They'll be a little more crinkly sounding, but they will work as well. You could also, if you have a dog who likes to defluff his toys like mine, you could use the fluff from that. I always have some lying around my house even after I've cleaned. But just make sure that's not too gross. It depends on your dog. So we're going to set that aside, and we're going to start with our sock. So our sock bunny will have his body be the bottom part of the sock, the toe, and his head is going to be somewhere around the heel, and his ears are going to be made out of the neck of the sock. So to start out, what you're going to want to do is grab a handful of poly-fil or a couple of plastic sacks, whatever it is you're using, bunch it up into a ball, like so. And you're going to stuff it into the sock. And this might take a little bit of work to get it up in there. But you're going to pretty much put the sock on your hand to do this. And you're going to stuff the poly-fil down in there. So you should have this lumpy round thing in the bottom of your sock. And you can squish it so that you can shape it. And I don't know. I think my bunny needs to be a little bit bigger in the bottom. So we're going to get a couple, just a little bit more fluff. We're going to stuff it down in there. And this is really subjective. You guys can decide how full you want your bunny's bottom to be. I wish I had a sample of this craft to show you so you know what it looks like before I'm done. But you can totally fast forward to into this video to see that, because that's where it's going to be. I only have the one I'm making now. So you want about that much fluff in your sock. Here's the whole guy so that you can get an idea. And we're going to pat it down a little bit. I want it a little flat on the bottom. This is probably not going to stand up on its own, but that's okay. All right. So now you are going to, once you have your sock filled to the point where you want it, you're going to take one of your little rubber bands, be they clear or colorful, and you are going to wrap it around the sock where the fluff cuts off. So right on top of that fluff. So you're going to take your rubber band, you're going to stretch it on your fingers, put it around here, and pull that sock through. Now, if you can get it around one more time, that would be good. This is pretty loose. This is only one time around, and that's kind of loose for our bunny. So we are going to go and do one more pull through. Just be careful. If you have a limited supply of rubber bands, you want to be careful that you don't break it accidentally. I like these ones designed for hair because they're designed to stretch around a couple times. And I find that very useful. So about 2 times will get you where you need to be. You want it tight enough that your fill isn't going to go through that, that join there. So now we're going to work on our bunny's head. I like to make my bunny's head a little smaller than his body, hopefully. Otherwise, he's a weirdly shaped bunny. So we're going to grab another handful of fluff and we're going to stuff it in. And if you're using plastic sacks at home, you will probably have to play with it. It might be a little bit different proportions than the fluff that I'm using. So you're going to stuff that in there like that. And my bunny's head is a little long for my taste, so I want my bunny's head to be round. I'm going to push that fluff around. I'm going to squeeze it, push it down, shake my camera a lot until I get a rounder head. And we're going to go ahead and use our second rubber band to do the same thing to the top of the bunny's head. We're going to wrap it around, pull it through, twist, and then pull through again. And push it down just a little bit. Okay, so that's our bunny's body, basically. And I think I want my bunny to be a little better shaped. There we go. You can, like I said, you can play with it. You can squish it until it's the shape you want. I wanted a round head, so I squished mine until it was a little bit more round. But I'm keeping my body a little bit more oblong. But it's really up to you. This is your bunny. Your bunny can be whatever kind of bunny you want it to be. So we're done with the fluff, so we can toss that aside. We don't need that for a while, or again on this craft. And we're going to turn this part of the bunny, this is the neck of the sock if you guys remember, into his ears. So what you're going to want to do is we're going to lay them down. We're actually going to cut them in half. This is the scary part. This is the point of no return. Make sure you're using fabric scissors. They will work a lot better than regular scissors. It's always good to keep your scissors for one use. So a pair of paper scissors and a pair of fabric scissors. But make sure you're using fabric scissors. And we're going to cut right down the middle of this. So go ahead and decide which part of your bunny is front. I've got the front of my bunny facing up. And we're going to cut down. Now be very careful when you're cutting down. Obviously, you don't want to cut yourself, but you also don't want to cut down past the rubber band. Because if you cut that rubber band, you're not going to have a bunny head anymore. You're just going to have fluff coming out. It'd be very sad. So we're going to cut it down, but not too far. To right about there. And these are going to be our bunny ears. And right now, they're very floppy bunny ears. They're probably going to stay very floppy bunny ears. I can't imagine that these will be not very floppy. But that's okay. So, right now, if you guys can see, they're not super ear shaped. They're squared at the ends. They're just a little awkward. This is going to be the inside of the ear. You can see where the curve of the sock is curving in. So that's going to be our inside of our ear. But we want them to be bunny ear shaped. So what you're going to do is you're going to round off this edge. And I'm going to cut off, you should have a thicker seam here at the end of your sock where your sock neck ended. I'm going to cut that off entirely. I don't want that on there. And we're going to round it off. So we're going to do a round shape right here. Now, if this is daunting to you, you can 100% grab a pen or a pencil if you happen to have one handy. I didn't have that in my list of supplies. And you can draw a rounded shape on there. It might take you a couple marks. But you don't want it to be super dark. That's why I recommend a pencil rather than a pen, because a pen mark is going to stick around for a while, whereas a pencil mark is very easy to cut off and you can kind of rub it off later if you need to. So, if you guys can see, I've made a round mark there. I'm going to cut that out. So that I have a cute rounded bunny ear. Ooh, I have a weird little piece there. I'm going to cut that guy off. If you guys wind up with anything like that, just snip it off so that you have a rounded shape for your ear. We're going to do the same thing with the other ear. I don't know what that weird piece was. And they don't have to match exactly. Your bunny ears are going to be pretty floppy. Unless they're very, very uneven, you're probably not going to be able to tell that they are not exact. I am not measuring them up against each other. So once again, you're going to trace or draw a line. You don't have to. You can 100% freehand this if you feel confident doing so. That is probably what I would do if I was not filming this for a video. But I am. So I'm going to be nice and show you guys how to do it. So now you have two rounded bunny ears. But bunny ears right now are very white. They're very one-dimensional aside from the little curves on the sides, and my bunny is kind of plain. So this is where our felt is going to come in, and we are going to take our felt and we're going to cut out little insides for our ears. So let me think about how we're going to do this. I haven't planned this one ahead, you guys. I'm going to take my bunny ear. There's my bunny ear. I'm going to lay him down. I'm going to use my pencil again. So I guess I should have included that in the beginning of the film. You definitely need a pencil for this craft. I'm just going to trace that bunny ear very lightly on my pink felt. You kind of have to move your pencil back and forth a lot to get a good trace on the felt, but you can 100% draw on felt. For this part, you could use a pen too, if you wanted. I'm just loosely drawing it. You don't even have to see, I didn't even do the whole thing. So you don't want to cut that out because that's the size of our bunny's ear. We want this to be the inside of our bunny's ear. So now I'm going to come in and I'm going to draw a similar shape, just smaller, on the inside of the ear. And I'm going to take that all the way to the edge of my fabric. And that is going to be my bunny ear. So now I'm going to do the same thing with the second ear. Because our ears are most likely a little different, you're going to want to trace each one. That is a really weird shape right there, but that's okay. It curves. You're not going to be able to see that. So I'm going to overlap it a little bit with my line here, just because I don't want to waste any felt. You guys don't have to do that quite so precisely, probably. Maybe, I don't know. Wasting is never a good idea, I suppose. And just trace that ear on there. Trace that side. So you can see where it overlaps a little. You just have to remember where that overlap is. And then trace in, or draw in. You're not tracing anything right now. Draw in the inside of your bunny ear, making sure not to include that overlap in there. You don't want that there. Right, so those two are going to be my bunny ears. And I'm going to cut that out. Now, again, I'm not going to cut along the line I traced. I'm going to cut along this inside line that I drew. So right here and right here. I'm going to cut that out with my fabric scissors. When I'm cutting things out of a big piece like this, I like to cut it part way, and then I like to just snip off a square. You got to make sure you're not cutting through the part that you're going to want. But I find it's much easier to cut stuff out from a small piece than it is from a huge piece like that. You don't have the piece flopping around on you quite so much. So keep cutting out your bunny ears. These are huge scissors. I'm not sure I like these scissors. Maybe that's why I let my dog chew on them that one time. So you're going to cut out one bunny ear. Let's see. That was that side. I'm going to keep my bunny ears together. And you're going to cut out your next bunny ear. Alright. So don't throw away this scrap. We are going to use that. So if you have a large enough piece of scrap, about that size, that's about a little bit less than an inch really. So it doesn't have to be a huge piece of scrap, but save your scrap, set that aside. We're going to use that later. That way you don't have to cut into your large felt sheet if you still have a large felt sheet. And we're going to set that aside. So now we're going to glue our bunny ears down. And I have to be careful. I am using a self-healing cutting mat as my table. And heat and self-healing cutting mats are not friendly. I think I'm going to slip something under here just to protect it a little bit. We're going to use my handy dandy plastic ruler to give it some protection. All right, so this is where your glue gun comes in. If you have never ever used a glue gun before, be careful. They are hot. I use a low temperature glue gun because you're probably not going to burn yourself horribly if you do accidentally touch it. I accidentally touch my glue gun all the time. I get glue on me all the time. It hurts. It's not the best, but you're also not going to really injure yourself. Some things to keep in mind when you're using your glue gun is not to touch that metal tip right there. That metal tip is super hot and you do not want to touch that. That is not your friend. The trigger is right here, and this is the part where the glue stick goes in. When your glue stick gets past this white part, if you see that white part moving, that's how it pushes the glue in. So it's a continuous feed, which means you never have to unload it. You're always putting more glue in. So when your stick gets down past that, you just put in another stick and you keep going. Super simple. So I'm actually going to put, I don't want to put directly on my ear. I'm not sure where my ear is going to go yet. So I'm going to look at that. I'm going to push it down. I'm going to see where I want it. I want it down in this curved area. If you guys can see that, let me move that ear out of the way. I want it down in there a little bit so that the curve of the fabric will naturally kind of hide the end of it, at least a little bit. So that's where I want it. I'm going to put my hot glue directly on the back of this guy. I'm going to put on plenty, and you guys have to move fast. Hot glue, oopsie, I already need to load it. So just put that guy in there and keep going. Hot glue dries fairly fast, so if you're sitting here and you're a little wishy-washy about where to put this guy, your hot glue is going to dry and then it's not going to stick down. So this is the part where I'm probably going to burn myself. But you're going to stick them down right there. You're going to move it in there. You have a little bit of wiggle room as you're moving it around, but once it's down, it's kind of stuck on there. So just keep that in mind. You don't really want to peel this guy up because this sock fabric, especially now that we've cut it, it's woven in a way that can come apart very easily. So once you get your ear down, don't pick them back up. It's not going to end well for you. So we're going to do that. Maybe I want to glue it right there. I think I do. That'll cover up our edge. So I'm going to put a little bit of glue right down in there and a little bit of glue right down there. And what I'm doing is I'm pinching the base of the sock in a little bit like that and hold it down. Hopefully you don't get glue on your fingers so that he has some coverage right there. And there's one bunny ear. So we're going to do the same thing to the other one. Make sure you're doing it on the inside and on the same side that you did this one. You don't want to accidentally get it on the back. See how easily mine is flipping over to the back right now? You want to make sure you're flipping it open. You might have to roll your bunny a little bit and just open that guy up like that. Maybe move the other ear out of your way. He's a little stiffer now that we have the felt on there and the glue. That's going to give it a little bit of support. It won't be quite as floppy as it was when we first cut it. So we're going to slip that in there. We're just going to eyeball it and see where we want it so that we know. I'm going to pull this fluff out because that's going to get glue on there. See, so a little fluff got caught in my rubber band. I'm going to push it where we want it so that we know before we put glue all over the back of our ear. So we're going to put glue down. Again, we're going to get plenty. I'm a big believer in a lot of glue, you guys, if you've watched any of my other videos. So lots of hot glue I'm gonna very carefully stick that guy down in there. Ooh, I got glue on me. Owie. I'm gonna press him down. And then once again, I'm gonna stick a little glue here and a little glue here so that I can fold the tip of my bunny ear down. Just put a dot there, a dot right there. We're just gonna fold his ear in a little bit. Ow! See, I hot glued myself. I told you guys I would. All right, so there are our bunny ears. And they're still pretty floppy. They're pretty goofy, actually. I kind of like them. But we have our floppy bunny ears. Now, if you think this edge is really rough, you can trim it. You can trim around and even it up a little bit. I like my bunny with some rough edges. He's a rough-edged bunny. But there's my bunny with his floppy bunny ears. So now we want a face. We don't want just our bunny to be a blank face. Maybe you do. That's fine. You can totally leave him blank if you like him that way. But I think I want my bunny to have a face. So we're going to start with a nose. And a cute little bunny nose should definitely be pink, I think. So I'm going to set this down. I'm going to draw a little nose. Should it be round or should it be triangle? What do you guys think? You could do either. I think mine is going to be kind of a rounded triangle. So not like hard triangle points, but just a little rounded triangle. If you guys can see what I just drew. I drew it right on the back of my piece of paper, or felt. That is not paper. Just a little rounded triangle. And again, because it's easier to cut something small, I'm going to snip that down into a square so that I'm only cutting from this small section. It'll be much easier to cut if you're doing it that way. I like to cut off in little pieces. And there we have, woo! There we had my bunny's nose. Make sure when you glue this guy down that you glue it down with the pencil marks facing in if you are using your scrap. So now I just have to decide where I want it. I think I'm going to cut out the other parts of his face first so that I can see his face as a whole. That way I don't wind up with a bunny face I don't like. So we're going to set my bunny nose over here. I'm going to set my bunny there. And we're going to grab my black fabric. Now you guys can do any color nose you want, any color eyes you want. If you have different felt, that is fine. You could do blue eyes, you could do green eyes, you could do a black nose, you could do little round pink circles so that your bunny has a little blushing cheek. It is up to you. I'm just going to cut off a very small rectangle of fabric. I'm going to actually fold it in half. This rectangle of fabric is about, let me see on my, it's about 1 3/4. I don't know if you can see that. My mat here has handy dandy measurements. So it's about 1 3/4. But I'm going to fold that guy in half and I'm going to cut a circle out of it. And because I folded it in half, what I'm going to wind up with is 2 circles. You just want to make sure that you don't have, that you cut this bend where you folded it off. You don't want your eyes to still be attached to each other. So I'm going to cut a circle out. It does not have to be a perfect circle. I am sure mine won't be a perfect circle. And now you have 2 little eyes. If these are too big, that's fine. You can just cut them smaller. I like to start big so that I can adjust down because you can always make them smaller. You can't make them bigger once you've cut them. Once you've cut them, you're out of luck. So, move my bunny. Put his eyes right there. Maybe his nose right there. I don't know about those eyes, you guys. Those are a little creepy, but I like the placement. We'll see if we can decreep the eyes in a second. So I'm actually going to leave them on. I'm going to just flip it over. I'm going to put a little dot exactly where I had that. And then I'm going to stick that guy back down on there. And I'm going to press. You can't press too hard because he's fluffy. So it's kind of hard to press. So again, with this eye, I'm just going to flip it down a little bit so that I remember where it was. Put a little dot of glue right where I had it. and put that bunny eye right back on there. Like that. Poking his poor little eyes. So then his nose is going to go right there, I think. That's cute. So put a dot of glue right where I had his nose. And glue tends to leave a stream of glue when you're using a glue gun. And that's okay. Just wait for that to dry, the spot that you glued. And then later you can just pull those wisps off with your fingers. They'll come right off. Super easy. So once you've got your
there's my bunny face
together.
And like I said, I am not entirely sold on those
black eyes are a little creepy. What you can do is use your white felt and just cut off a little piece. Again, just double it over. I'm using just a random piece of scrap and cut out 2 tiny, tiny little white circles so that we can give him some cute little eye spots. A little light shining in those black cavernous eyes. And I'm going to put mine on the top right. So I'm just going to put a little dot of glue right there on both sides. And then I'm going to put those little white dots right on top there. And I'm going to press them down like that. So the very, very last step for your bunny, for a complete bunny, is to take your ribbon, if you have some. You do not have to do this. If you want to have your bunny like this, you totally can. If you don't have ribbon, that is also fine. But you're going to cut off a piece of ribbon mine's about 15 inches long. And you're going to wrap it around your bunny. And you're basically just going to tie a bow around your bunny's neck. If you have a hard time tying bows, go grab a parent to help you out. But it's the same as you would tie your shoe. So you're going to tie that bow right around his neck or her neck, whatever kind of bunny you want. Mine's a he. Haven't named him yet, but I will. And there you have a super cute sock bunny rabbit. Thank you guys.